Thanks for tuning into the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with another rewind edition of my podcast, and today I will be rewinding 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. Now, I'm making reference to the Get Rich or Die Trying album and not to be confused with the movie, or I think he came out with a book as well, but he centered a lot of things around that. But I'm talking about the 2003 release of his album, Get Rich or Die Trying, which is very symbolic, very inspirational as well. Just trying to show another way to create aspirations and inspirations and just showing that, you know, you got to try, at least. So this was his debut album that set the hip hop world in a frenzy, selling 870,000 records in the first week, selling 9 million copies in the US to this date and 13 million globally. Almost going diamond. I'm not sure if it's I don't think it's diamond yet, but eventually with the streams and all this different stuff, they'll probably push it over to diamond. Definitely very deserving of it. Um, this album showed the potential of hip hop. Now, there's been albums that went diamond before. When you say like a MC Hammer or Vanilla Ice, Biggie did it, but it's a rare feat, right? Tupac did it on All Eyes on Me. It's a very rare feat to actually go diamond, especially in any genre. But hip hop, it was major for hip hop to show that there was going to be progress made, especially back during this time. This is after 9/11. This is after, hip hop after it's seen a decline after Biggie and Pac died. So this was massive for hip hop fans, especially for East Coast artists to do it. Because back then it was about East Coast and West Coast. Those were the people who were primarily putting out music. Outkast was out back this time, but they really didn't get a lot of love prior to this. But of course, in 2003, they dropped that double album that did well and went 11 times platinum, and they got all these Grammys. But you know, hip hop lives in the East Coast. It's kind of like in the NBA. The NBA is better when the Lakers and the Celtics are good. When they're not good, the NBA is not the same. So this is what that is similar to in that kind of way. But after Biggie and Pac died, it was kind of like who the NBA lost Jordan. It's like, all right, who's going to replace Jordan? So of course, you had Jay-Z and then you had Nas, but 50 Cent coming along created another market, especially for the younger artists, for the gangster rappers, because there weren't really a lot of gangster rappers who were doing this to a degree, especially ones that were proven. Now, a lot of artists talked about what they did, but 50 Cent had a record, especially on the New York streets, and he had the stigma around him or the reputation around him of being shot 9 times. And this album addressed a lot of that. It created this aura around him of like, man, this guy's like untouchable. This guy is amazing. He can rap. He can, he lived a street life, and he's really talking about what rapping about what he lived. So this, created something totally different than what we used to, especially with, the muscles and with the do-rags and the tattoos. He was seen as an icon or a symbol already in hip hop, synonymous with success. Off this one album, if he never released another album, he would have been still considered one of the greats, I believe. Biggie only put out 2 albums, and Pac, died at the age of 24. He put out a lot of albums, but sometimes it's about consistency. I mean, it's just about the work that you put in off of one album, similar to what a Lauryn Hill did. Cardi B is kind of doing that right now. You have Frank Ocean only put out 2 albums. So if you're very good, if you're very exceptional at what you do, you really don't have to put out many works. But 50 Cent put out several albums. He's delved into other things. But just getting back to this album, that In the Club record set the tone for everything. That was a major hit. Even to today, when the song comes on, the production was just next level. So anytime you hear that beat come on, everybody's gonna go crazy to it. The lyrics were crazy too. The video's classic of him like exercising, doing the pull-ups and upside down and stuff like that. Him reinventing that at the Super Bowl. It just becomes a whole thing. Everyone remembers that video just because it was such a classic song, and he turned it into a classic video. Now, when he became even more of a legend or more of a Uh, I don't know if this was good or bad or enemy for him when he, people found out about his public beef or feud with Ja Rule, which was on the Wankster video. He had the little toy and all that stuff, and just talking about all of that. So that gave him even more aura or created this more mystique around him, especially around this album coming out. Now this album is phenomenal with a bunch of classics that already stood the test of time. Now this album came out in '03. It's 25 now, so it's 22 years ago, and a lot of these songs still slap. Um, my favorite song on the album is Mini Man. Mini Man still feels the same as when I first heard it, especially with the coin flip at the beginning and the people talking, and then he's just going around and it's like Me Against the World, Tupac. Now this should have been a song that was on Me Against the World, Tupac's album. Um, it sounded like something that Tupac would have wrote back in his day. Very classic album. I mean song. Now this song played on an episode of Power. If you don't watch Power, definitely check that out. But when Tariq was meeting with Tommy and they played the song in the background, crazy moment, crazy song, excellent production, whoever decided to put that song right there. But Many Men is definitely one of the best songs of all time and one of my favorite songs from 50 Cent. Just the impact of it as well. Talking about personal stuff that happened to when 50 Cent got shot, and he actually name drops people in there as well, if you haven't checked that out. But Patiently Waiting is a very impactful song that was on the album as well with Eminem, and it just showed his relationship with Eminem, how close they were. The song was produced by Eminem as well. Several tracks were produced by Eminem and Dr. Dre, EP'd as well, I do believe. So he was definitely had a strong start in hip hop. PIMP and 21 Questions. Those are great songs as well, but they were mostly for the radio to get those spins. Like I talked about, this was in 2003. So it was about radio play. You had to put out something for the radio. Opposed to now, you don't have to do that. You have so many outlets as far as YouTube, satellite radio. You got different platforms you can put things on. You don't necessarily need the radio play or radio hits anymore. You still need them to some degree to perform at public venues like Super Bowl and things like that. But for the most part, you can put out what you want now. But that PIP and 21 Question songs was definitely needed for the radio play. Back Down, which is my second favorite song on the album, which was a B-side. Now, he had a lot of great B-sides on this album as well. I always talk about if your album's going to be classic, you need great B-sides. Not the stuff that you just put on radio and that's popular, but the songs that people don't really talk about, the songs that never made it to radio play, the song that, that don't have the big producers on it, but you can still make it work. He did that on this album. A lot of great B-sides. Um, but this was definitely one of the great rap albums of all time, especially for a debut, but just in general. This is similar to a rookie of the year winning the MVP as well. He did both of those in the same year. So if you somehow been living on a rock and haven't checked out the 50 Cent Get Rich or Die Trying album, definitely go do that. And until next time, I'll see you next time.